So in this video, I want to talk a bit more about the profile description framework I use to get my clients an additional 3 to 5 inbound Upwork leads per day. When I say inbound leads, those who are familiar with Upwork, they'll refer to it as invites to interview. So it's basically when a client comes onto your profile, they do a search, they see your profile, and then they click the hire button, and then they basically invite you to submit a proposal to the job based on their needs or wants. So it's very straightforward and it's so integral to your success on Upwork because not every huge agency, business, corporation, whatever you want to refer to it as, not every one of them willing to wait on people to apply to their job. They actually would prefer to hire the best candidates possible, and it's typically those with the best profiles. So with that being said, we're just going to get straight into it. So I want to start this off by saying if you understand this structure, you'd understand not only how to grab attention in general, but also how to sell to anyone. Because the number one currency in the world right now, it's not a crypto coin and it's not an already established dollar. It's actually attention. So the longer you can hold someone's attention for, the more likely they are to convert as a customer. So this entire description or framework structure, whatever it is you want to call it, is meant to grab attention and hold on to it for as long as possible. So the number one habit I had to unlearn when starting a business, and one I'm still kind of struggling with today, it is how to say more while writing less. So what I mean by that is no one wants to read an entire essay or epistle, especially if it isn't relevant to the context. So what I mean by that is if you're going to a blog, you're expecting to read a long body of text. That's what blogs are known for. However, if you're on a sales page, for example, you're on a landing page, you're not on a landing page to read about this person's entire life story, right? You're on a landing page because you want to learn more about whatever it is that they do, followed by some form of social proof so you'd be able to trust them. So that's why video is such a powerful medium in today's world. It's because you can write an epistle, let's say as an example, an essay, and then just cut it up into bits and record that as video that's probably less than a minute in terms of length. So it's a short or a reel or a TikTok in terms of length, which is much easier to consume than having to sit down and read an entire blog post. Do you get the gist? No. That's why, and I'm going to touch more on this later, but that's why long profile descriptions are obsolete. They don't work as well anymore. Everyone's attention span has taken a dire hit because of the introduction of TikTok, Reels, and YouTube Shorts. Short form content is what's dominating right now. It's the norm. So if you deviate from the norm, you may find some success, but there's a reason why it's the norm because everybody's used to it. So although I was still an essay writer, I still struggled because copywriting is not the same as essay writing. It's just not. You're trying to say as much as humanly possible within a certain amount of characters. That's the gist of it. I know some of you are going to respond to this by saying, but Matthew, if I write more, the prospect has more to work with, or they'll learn more about me, and this will increase my chances of being hired, blah, blah, blah. I want you to picture something. Let's say that you have a multi seven figure brand. Just as an example, you're responsible for 50 to 100 employees. You take 10 plus sales calls per day, right? Where during that time are you going to find the opportunity to sit down and go through this candidate's entire profile description, probably 5,000 characters long, when his neighbor, who has probably half the length or even less, tells and the profile description tells him exactly what it is that they do, how they do it, why they should work with him. He saves more than half the time reading the competitor's profile description, as well as he'd be able to make a decision on whether he'd want to work with him in the first place based on that information within the profile description, because it's to the point. And I'll get more into the structure, but that's how you need to think about things. If you run a large corporation that has 50 to 100 employees, you don't have the time to be leisurely going through this entire document. Oh, this guy is cool. He likes to do this in his free time. Or nice. He would be really glad if I hired him. What? Just say that to yourself out loud and put yourself in the shoes of the prospect. Would you hire you? Probably not. So I can tell you with certainty that this won't work. Because I learned this incredibly quickly while I was working with a client that was doing 8 figures, which is why I used a similar example. This client does 8 figures. I have to report to him every week about the progress, what we're doing, blah, blah, blah. So upon submitting my weekly report, they called a meeting with me and began to discuss the content of the report. So they lauded my efforts. I mean, they're like, yeah, you did good. But then, in all honesty, the person, I can't say his name, said it's great, but no one's reading all of this because he had somebody to report to as well. And that person was doing even more than him. So if he's telling me here that nobody's reading all of this, then more than likely this statement would hold true in every other instance. So fundamentally, what I wrote just wouldn't be read because it was way too long. So that is, they wanted everything to be as short and sweet as possible. All they cared about were the results, what we're going to be doing next time to further improve the results. That's it, full stop. They don't care about anything else. That was the whole report for me. And I had to do this every week. So, in other words, get to the point. This is especially true for Upwork since you only have one shot to grab your prospect before they bounce and you never see them again. Why? Because a lot of you like to preach about competition. There's so much competition on Upwork. There are these guys that are charging less, blah, blah, blah. That doesn't matter. For the most part, that doesn't matter. Because all the prospect really cares about is whether you'd be able to do the work for them. If they see you and they land on your profile description especially should be good enough so that as soon as they see you, they'd say, okay, I want to work with this guy. That's the reality of inbound leads on Upwork at least. So knowing this, would you prefer to be met with an epistle that says nothing or a concise, relevant, and well-written, and I'll put this in parentheses, pitch? Because that's essentially what you're doing. You're pitching them within that profile description. It's just not a hard pitch, it's a softer pitch. So enter the HWRW framework. So how it works, who is it for, results you can expect, and what to do next. So this framework, super simple. It doesn't have to be long. It's the same framework that I've been using to get all of these inbound calls for my clients. So just today, 3 of the 5 calls in the last 2 days that I booked from one of my clients came from inbound. So a lot of people have this negative connotation having to deal with inbound leads on Upwork, that the quality isn't as good, because you do have a lot of low quality leads that come through Upwork. But at the same time, there are a lot of high quality leads. So conversely, the same is true. So this framework is successful because it covers all bases of a pitch while doubling as a resume. So you want to convey to your prospect immediately what you do, how your process works, why you're qualified, what results they can expect, and what they should do next. So prior to stating how your process works, a quick introduction and bold claim will set the precedent for a great journey. For example, hey, I'm Matthew. I help agency owners add extra 5 to 10 qualified sales calls to their calendar, or they don't pay anything. So that's my offer. So this way, your prospect will know whether they're in the right place or not, and if it's worth reading. Because if you're targeting a specific ICP and you make mention to that ICP in the profile description, especially at the beginning, they'll know whether or not it makes sense to continue reading. If they're not an agency owner, okay, Matthew helps agency owners. I'm not an agency owner. Move on. Conversely, I'm an agency owner. Matthew specifically called me out as an agency owner. He gets these results for me. He guarantees it. Okay, moving on, I want to read more. So this way, your prospect will know whether they're in the right place or not and if it's worth reading. Essentially, you're both qualifying and disqualifying simultaneously, saving you future headaches. I can't even laugh at this point because I've just begun reminiscing about headache clients I've had in the past that I would rather not work with again. But I digress. So how it works. So here, you simply want to explain your unique mechanisms to attain results. So that is what makes you different from the other millions of freelancers on the platform. So you go into a bit of detail here. So I should even put an example. So as an example, I use my omni-channel outreach systems, book you an additional X amount of calls per month. So just as an example, if I was a typical lead gen agency, which I'm not, I'm an Upwork lead gen agency. So I could use, instead of omni outreach channels, I could say I use Upwork to book you an additional X calls per month. So I use Upwork. That's my unique mechanism. Others are using cold email, LinkedIn, etc. But I choose Upwork. So that's something that not many people do, and it shows you, kind of gives a bit of insight into my process. Moving on. Who is it for? So once again, you're both qualifying and disqualifying the prospect. So make it abundantly clear that these people get the best results when working with you. So for example, B2B companies, SaaS, B2C companies, e-commerce, drop shipping, etc. I work with or I help e-com agency owners 10 times their ROAS using Google Ads. Boom. That's another method of qualifying and disqualifying at the very beginning. So moving on, results you can expect. So you need to be selling them a transformation. So what can they expect after working with you? Who's a customer service representative? As an example, so you'll hit a 5-star customer service rating upon working with me. Or I can say, as an Upwork lead gen agency owner, I'll book you an additional 5 to 10 qualified calls with your ICP using Upwork. That's another thing that you can say. Moving on. So the results need to be a genuine pain point of theirs, or there's no point. So I know that agency owners struggle with lead generation. Therefore, I know that the results that they want are additional leads. That's simple. So I target that. If you're an e-com agency owner, perhaps you don't think you're doing as well with email marketing. Therefore, one of the things that you can call out with agency owners is we'll double or triple the revenue that you get from your email list. So the result needs to be a genuine pain point of theirs or there's no point. This is a lesson in sales as well. Don't sell something the prospect doesn't want. That's just fluff. So what to do next? In other words, a CTA. So prompt them to send you a request to interview or to connect with you via LinkedIn social media account. Why I say LinkedIn is because that's something you can put in your Upwork profile and it's a hyperlink, so you can just click it. We're not allowed to link anything in the profile description itself, so we have to use unorthodox methods to get what it is that we want. Typically, this is a structure that I use. So people like to be told what to do, so don't overcomplicate the process. Tell them what to do. Tell them how to get into contact with you. So whilst writing your profile description, you need to be asking yourself all of the above. If you haven't answered all of these questions, then you haven't written a good description. Everything else is fluff. Everything other than what I just showed you in the structure is just fluff. Answer everything else, that's completely up to you, but it increases friction. So remember, your aim is to say more while typing less and to convince your prospect in a reasonable time frame. If you're writing an essay for your profile description, you are achieving the opposite. No one wants to read an essay while searching for a job candidate on Upwork. Once again, say more while typing less. Use the HWRW format to write a clear, concise, well-written, highly converting profile description. And lastly, get to the point. Here's an example of a profile description I've written for one of my clients, and I'll read it a bit. So I create highly converting, high quality ad creatives using 2D and 3D animations to consistently generate 6 figures in revenue for B2B companies in SaaS. So my animations have generated millions of dollars for B2B companies in several industries. That's social proof. This is the what and how right here. And then here's how it works. So how it works: no outsourcing, black hat tactics, or cutting corners, and ensure that your ad creatives reflect the quality, practicality, and uniqueness of your product. Handle everything regarding the creatives by leveraging product and competitor research, analysis, and use of animations. If I don't increase your profit margin with paid ads, I won't charge you a dime. So this is a guarantee. Guarantees work if you don't have any earnings or past track record on Upwork. So who's it for? So if you're running a B2B company, especially SaaS, and are struggling with establishing constant, reliable profit margins using paid ads, then this is for you. And then results you can expect: an established, predictable, and reliable creative system that will increase your revenue and decrease your headache. The tireless hours you've spent finding competent contractors, agency owners, team members, etc. to handle your creative system for you will be a thing of the past. Lastly, the CTA. So a free 30-minute growth analysis call. So if you want to establish reliable profits for your company, then let's have a chat. Shoot me a response and let's hop on a call to see if I can help you. So here's one example of an optimized profile. I'll leave another one here. This is mine in particular. And yeah, this is, if you liked everything, then you can share, like, comment, all of that good stuff. But I really do hope that this helped you in some way, shape, or form. And happy sending on Upwork, and all the best for you guys and getting your inbound leads. It will make a huge difference in terms of the amount of meetings that have been booked for you, and then increases the chance of you landing your very first project on Upwork, especially. The root of a good Upwork career is your profile. All right, guys, take care. Peace.